Ambassador, welcome to the show. We are so grateful to have you this morning.
Thanks for having me on. Busy day.
It's a busy day. We're always grateful to have you on. Welcome back. You heard Zach. President Trump has said he is not ready to negotiate a deal with Iran. He said he might continue to bomb the island of Karg just for fun. He's even suggested the possibility of additional U.S. strikes on key targets like the U.S. did. Now, from a military and strategic standpoint, sir, what do you think the administration's plan is here? What would be the objective of more strikes, especially considering we have decimated most of their military?
What we're trying to do militarily is to continue to focus on power projection, which is whatever's left of the nuclear program. And remember, there's about 400 kilograms of heavily enriched uranium buried under many tons of rubble that we bombed, but still that's a concern. But more, it's the other elements of the nuclear research, the nuclear production capability we're still going after, and missiles. We're trying to get missile launches, we're trying to get the missiles themselves, and the factories that produce them. So that work isn't done. But beyond that, trying to seize the straits, or escort the straits, that's a huge military operation, and I'm not so sure we have the forces yet in the area to be able to do that.
Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelensky said overnight, or for us, a lot of us woke up to that news, saying that Russia is supplying Iran with drones, the same type of drones that Moscow is using in Ukraine. How significant is this Russian military support to Iran? And more importantly, what risks could it pose for U.S. forces and American interests?
The major risk, and even though the president danced around that, there's various indications it's correct, is intelligence from satellites and other platforms that would give the Iranians very good targeting data on U.S. troops and U.S. ships and other things. So that's one concern. In terms of the Russia sending Shaddad drones back to Iran, that would be a concern if it was done at scale, because Iran is firing, many hundreds of these things most days, and the Russians would have to mount a major shipping effort to do that. We haven't seen that yet.
The president says he is working with international partners on a plan to secure the Strait of Hormuz, while dismissing concerns about higher gas prices at home. Oil prices are surging, shipping through the Strait of Hormuz under threat. How concerning, Ambassador, is this moment? How much worse could this conflict get?
Any conflict can get even worse, and I've been involved in a few in the last 50 years. Iran's escalation possibilities now are more limited because they've done most of what they can do, which is to send oil prices soaring. Now, historically, particularly when adjusted for inflation, these oil prices are so far not all that high, but the sticker shock is big because they were quite low, around $60 a barrel, and then they've jumped up to around or over 100, and we see this at the tank with a 25 or 30 or 40% increase. But nonetheless, this is in the short term bearable. What Iran could do, but it would be suicidal, is to attack the permanent oil and gas infrastructure on the Gulf. That would be extremely dangerous, but we would do the same thing to Iran.
Initially, when this war started 2 weeks ago, a little over 2 weeks ago now, President Trump said it wouldn't last long. Well, now he's saying it's going to last as long as necessary. From your experience in Middle East diplomacy, sir, how realistic is that? What does it tell you about America's objectives and, of course, the exit strategy?
The exit strategy at the end is negotiations. The president mentioned that. He said he's not ready because the Iranians haven't offered a good enough deal. I suspect it involves the enrichment of uranium, because he also cited that. But these things could go on for a long time because Iran still has three things it can do. One is close the straits. It has far more capability of closing the straits to just the minor degree that would lead insurance companies to tell ships not to sail through it. That's the problem of securing the straits. They also have this uranium under the rubble we've bombed. That has to be dealt with. And finally, they still have most of their security forces. That blocks an uprising of the people. It also blocks us really putting boots on the ground to try to secure one or another element. So therefore, with these three things, Iran can stay in the fight. And until they're ready to negotiate on terms we can find acceptable, this war, I fear, will go on.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.